Have you ever had a moment so unexpected, so completely out of the blue, that your entire body just freezes? That's exactly what happened to Mark Reynolds one sunny Saturday afternoon. If you're enjoying this incredible true story, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming content that will leave you speechless. Mark stared in disbelief as Catherine Chen, the same woman who critiqued his quarterly reports and led stern-faced board meetings, casually lowered herself onto his lap on the park bench. His coffee cup slipped from his fingers, splashing across the concrete as his mind raced to make sense of what was happening. This was his boss. His intimidating, brilliant, untouchable boss who had never so much as called him by his first name in the 3 years he'd worked at Horizon Technologies. "I'm sorry," Catherine whispered, her voice trembling in a way he'd never heard before. "I thought you were someone else." But Mark knew there was more to this story. Much more. 6 months earlier, Mark's life had been completely different. He had been happily married to Elena, his college sweetheart, raising their 5-year-old daughter Lily in a modest but comfortable suburban home. He had a stable job as a mid-level marketing analyst at Horizon Technologies, and while he wasn't setting the world on fire with his career, he was content. The future stretched before him like a well-mapped road. Then came the accident. A rainy night, a truck driver who'd fallen asleep at the wheel, and in an instant, Elena was gone. Mark found himself a widower at 34, solely responsible for a heartbroken little girl who couldn't understand why mommy wasn't coming home. The first few weeks passed in a blur of funeral arrangements, well-meaning casseroles from neighbors, and nights spent holding Lily as she cried herself to sleep. Mark moved through his days like a ghost, going through the motions at work, barely keeping it together. His performance slipped. Reports were late. Presentations lacked their usual polish. He knew he was on thin ice, but he couldn't seem to find his footing. That's when Catherine Chen, the newly appointed CEO of Horizon Technologies, called him into her office. Mark had only seen her from afar before, a formidable presence in tailored suits who had risen through the ranks with remarkable speed. At 40, she was the youngest CEO in the company's history and had a reputation for being brilliant but merciless when it came to underperformance. "Mr. Reynolds," she said, not looking up from his file as he entered her immaculate office. "Your numbers have been concerning for the past quarter." Mark stood there, his tie feeling suddenly too tight. "Yes, Ms. Chen. I'm aware. Are you also aware that under normal circumstances, this would be grounds for termination?" She finally looked up, her dark eyes unreadable. "I am," Mark said, feeling a cold sweat break out across his back. He couldn't lose this job. Not now. Not with Lily depending on him. Catherine studied him for a long moment. "I understand you've experienced a personal loss recently." The clinical way she referred to Elena's death made his chest tighten, but he nodded. "My wife. 3 months ago." Something flickered across Catherine's face, so quickly he almost missed it. "You have a child?" "A daughter. She's 5. Catherine tapped her pen against the desk, then made a decision. "I'm not going to fire you, Mr. Reynolds. But I am going to move you to a different department where your current limitations might be less of a liability. You'll report directly to me for the next 6 months. If your performance improves, we'll reassess." It wasn't charity, the new position came with longer hours and more demanding projects, but it was a lifeline. Mark took it gratefully. The following months were a grueling balancing act. Mark hired a babysitter for Lily, worked late into the evenings after putting her to bed, and tried desperately to meet Catherine's exacting standards. She was a demanding boss, sending his work back multiple times with terse notes for improvement, scheduling early morning meetings that forced him to rearrange his childcare, and setting deadlines that seemed impossible to meet. But slowly, something unexpected began to happen. Mark found that the intense focus required by his new role gave him less time to dwell on his grief. The challenging projects engaged his mind in ways his previous position hadn't. And Catherine, for all her demanding nature, was also fair. When he delivered good work, she acknowledged it. When he needed to leave early for Lily's kindergarten graduation, she didn't make him feel guilty. One evening, after everyone else had left the office, Catherine stopped by his desk where he was still working on a presentation. "It's nearly 9, Reynolds," she said, her heels clicking on the polished floor as she approached. "Don't you have a daughter to get home to?" Mark rubbed his tired eyes. "The babysitter's staying late. I need to finish this for tomorrow." Catherine leaned against his desk, arms crossed. For once, she looked less like an intimidating CEO and more like a concerned human being. "How is your daughter handling everything?" The unexpected question caught him off guard. "She has good days and bad days. Mostly she's confused. Angry sometimes. She doesn't understand why her mom isn't coming back." Catherine nodded slowly. "Children are resilient, but they need stability. Go home, Reynolds. The presentation can wait until morning." As weeks turned into months, these small moments of humanity from Catherine became more frequent. She began asking about Lily occasionally. Once, when Mark had to miss work because Lily was sick, Catherine sent a care package to his house with children's books, soup, and cold medicine. Mark couldn't figure her out. In meetings, she was still the same demanding, sometimes intimidating boss. But these glimpses of compassion suggested there was more beneath the surface. Spring arrived, bringing with it Lily's 6th birthday. Mark planned a small party at the local park, inviting her classmates and a few neighbors who had been supportive after Elena's death. The morning of the party, as he was setting up decorations at the park pavilion, his phone rang. It was Catherine. "Reynolds, I need the Miller proposal on my desk by noon." Mark's heart sank. "Ms. Chen, it's Saturday. And it's my daughter's birthday party." There was a pause on the other end. "I see. When will you be back in the office?" "Monday morning," he said, trying to keep the frustration from his voice. "Fine. Monday then." She hung up without another word. Mark put his phone away, disappointed but not surprised. Catherine Chen was still his boss, after all. Her moments of kindness didn't change the fundamental nature of their relationship. The party was a success, despite Lily's momentary sadness when she blew out her candles and whispered that she had wished for her mommy to come back. Mark held it together, helping her open presents and serving cake to the excited children. As the party wound down and parents began collecting their children, Mark sat alone on a bench, watching Lily play with her new friends on the playground. That's when he felt someone sit down beside him. "She looks happy," Catherine said quietly. Mark turned in shock. Catherine Chen was sitting next to him, dressed in casual clothes, jeans and a simple blouse, so different from her usual corporate attire that he almost didn't recognize her. "Ms. Chen? What are you doing here?" She handed him a wrapped package. "I thought your daughter might like this. My niece is about her age, and this was her favorite book last year." Mark took the gift, completely bewildered. "Thank you, but how did you know where we'd be?" Catherine looked uncomfortable. "You mentioned the park name when I called. I was in the area, so." She trailed off, clearly not used to explaining herself. Before Mark could respond, Lily came running over. "Daddy! Who's this lady?" Mark introduced them, still trying to process the situation. "Lily, this is Ms. Chen. She's my boss from work." Lily studied Catherine with the direct curiosity only children possess. "Do you make my daddy work too hard? He stays up really late sometimes." Catherine actually smiled, a real smile that transformed her usually serious face. "Sometimes I do. I'll try to be better about that." Lily nodded, satisfied with this answer. "Want to see me go down the big slide? Daddy says I'm brave enough now." To Mark's further astonishment, Catherine agreed, following Lily to the playground while Mark watched in disbelief. For 20 minutes, his intimidating boss pushed his daughter on the swings and applauded her slide adventures. When he returned to the bench. "You have a remarkable daughter," she said. "Thank you," Mark replied, still trying to understand what was happening. "She's the reason I get up in the morning." Catherine nodded, her expression turning serious. "I lost my mother when I was 7. Cancer. My father was not equipped to handle a grieving child. He buried himself in work, hired nannies to raise me. I grew up quickly." Mark was stunned by this personal revelation. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It was a long time ago." Catherine watched Lily across the playground. "But I remember what it felt like, that confusion, the anger. The way adults tried to pretend everything was normal when it clearly wasn't." They sat in silence for a moment, watching Lily play. "Why are you telling me this?" Mark finally asked. Catherine seemed to consider her answer carefully. "Because I see you trying, Reynolds. Trying to be both parents. Trying to keep your career afloat. Trying not to fall apart." She turned to look at him directly. "It's admirable." Before Mark could respond, Lily came running back, full of 6-year-old energy. "Daddy, can we get ice cream? Please. It's your birthday, princess." "Of course we can." Lily turned to Catherine. "Do you want to come too? They have chocolate and vanilla swirl." Mark started to intervene, certain his boss had better things to do with her Saturday, but Catherine surprised him again. "I'd like that very much, if your dad doesn't mind." And so Mark found himself walking to the ice cream stand with his daughter and his boss, feeling like he'd stepped into some alternate reality. They sat at a picnic table, Lily chattering away about her friends and school while Catherine listened with genuine interest, asking questions and laughing at Lily's jokes. As the afternoon wore on, Mark realized he was seeing a completely different side of Catherine Chen. Here, away from the office, she was warm, funny, and surprisingly good with children. When Lily got ice cream on her new shirt, Catherine helped clean it up without a hint of the impatience she showed toward clumsy presentations in the boardroom. When it was time to leave, Lily gave Catherine an impulsive hug. "Will you come to my next birthday too?" Catherine looked momentarily startled, then gently returned the hug. "If I'm invited." "You are," Lily declared with the absolute authority of a 6-year-old. As they walked to the parking lot, Mark felt compelled to say something. "Thank you for coming today. And for the gift. You didn't have to do that." Catherine stopped walking, her expression uncharacteristically vulnerable. "I know what it's like to be that little girl, Reynolds. And I know what it's like to have a father who's trying his best but doesn't quite know how to do it all." She hesitated. "If you ever need flexibility with work, or just someone to talk to who understands, my door is open." Mark was touched by the offer. "Thank you. That means a lot." They reached Catherine's car, a sleek, expensive model that reminded Mark of the vast differences in their lives. As she unlocked it, she turned back to him. "One more thing, Reynolds. I think after today, you should probably start calling me Catherine." The following Monday at work, Mark wasn't sure what to expect. Would Catherine act as though their Saturday encounter had never happened? Would their professional relationship remain unchanged? He got his answer when he arrived at his desk to find a note informing him that he'd been assigned to lead a new marketing initiative, one that came with more responsibility but also more regular hours. The note was signed simply, Catherine. Over the next few weeks, a cautious friendship began to develop alongside their professional relationship. Catherine remained demanding at work, but there was a new understanding between them. Sometimes she would ask about Lily, or offer suggestions for handling specific parenting challenges. Mark found himself looking forward to their interactions, appreciating her sharp mind and the dry humor that emerged when they were alone. One evening, as they worked late on a presentation, Catherine mentioned that her father had remarried quickly after her mother's death. "I resented her," she admitted, surprising Mark with her candor. "She wasn't unkind, but she wasn't my mother. I made her life miserable until she eventually left." "That must have been hard for everyone," Mark said carefully. Catherine nodded. "My point is, children grieve differently than adults. Has Lily seen anyone? A counselor, I mean?" Mark felt a flash of defensiveness. "We've been managing." "That's not what I asked." Catherine's tone was gentle but firm. "Horizon's health plan covers family counseling. I could make some recommendations." Initially resistant, Mark eventually took her advice. The counselor helped Lily express feelings she'd been keeping inside, and helped Mark understand how to support her through her grief. He was grateful for Catherine's suggestion, though he never directly told her so. As summer approached, Mark realized that Lily's school break would present a childcare challenge. The babysitter who had been helping was leaving for college, and the summer camp he'd planned to enroll Lily in had a waiting list. When he mentioned this problem to Catherine during a work lunch, she surprised him again. "My sister runs a small day camp at her farm outside the city. It's mostly for family and close friends, but I'm sure she'd make room for Lily." Mark was hesitant to accept such a personal favor, but when he met Catherine's sister Julia, a warm, earth mother type who couldn't have been more different from Catherine, and saw how Lily immediately took to the animals and open spaces of the farm, he relented. The summer camp arrangement meant that Mark occasionally drove out to the farm to pick up Lily, sometimes encountering Catherine there visiting her sister. In these settings, away from the corporate environment, their friendship deepened. Mark learned that beneath Catherine's tough exterior was a woman who had sacrificed a personal life for her career, who loved her nieces and nephews fiercely, and who had a surprising passion for gardening and classical music. One evening in late July, after Lily had fallen asleep in the car on the drive home from the farm, Catherine walked with Mark to his car. "She's thriving," Catherine said, looking at the sleeping child through the window. "You're doing a good job, Mark." It was the first time she'd used his first name, and something about the way she said it made his heart beat faster. "I couldn't have done it without your help," he admitted. "The camp, the counseling, the flexible work schedule, you've gone above and beyond what any boss would do." Catherine was quiet for a moment. "Perhaps I haven't been acting entirely as your boss for some time now." The implication hung in the air between them. Mark looked at her in the fading evening light, seeing not his intimidating CEO but a woman who had become important to him in ways he hadn't anticipated. "Catherine, She shook her head, stepping back. "It's complicated. I know that. You're still grieving, you have Lily to consider, and I'm still your boss. We should be careful." Mark nodded, respecting her boundaries even as he recognized the feelings developing between them. Careful. Right. As summer turned to fall, their relationship remained in this careful limbo, more than colleagues but not quite acknowledging the attraction that both felt. Catherine became a regular presence in Lily's life, sometimes joining them for weekend outings or bringing over dinner when Mark was swamped with work. Lily adored her, often asking when Ms. Catherine would visit next. Mark watched his daughter bloom under the additional female attention, coming out of the shell she'd retreated into after her mother's death. The anniversary of Elena's death arrived in October. Mark took the day off work, planning to visit the cemetery with Lily and then spend a quiet day at home. He was surprised when Catherine called that morning. "I don't want to intrude," she said hesitantly, "but I thought you might need a friend today." "Both of you?" Mark found himself grateful for the offer. "Actually, we would. If you're sure." Catherine joined them at the cemetery, standing back respectfully as Mark and Lily placed flowers on Elena's grave. Afterward, when Lily asked if they could go to the park where they'd celebrated her birthday, a place with happy memories of her mother, Catherine came along. The park was quiet on the cool autumn day. Lily ran to the swings, leaving Mark and Catherine sitting on the same bench where they'd shared ice cream months before. "Thank you for being here," Mark said quietly. "It means a lot to both of us." Catherine nodded, watching Lily on the swings. I remember how lonely the anniversaries felt. My father would always work late those days, as though he could pretend it wasn't happening.